So for this we need to chop an onion. Previously we've sliced an onion, so I'm going to show you how you chop an onion. So again we're going to cut the top off and just the hairy bits on the bottom of the tail. So it's flat on the surface. Cut it in half as we did for slicing the onion and remove the skin. The same for this onion. So now you can do this two ways. The way we're taught at chef school is using a big knife. So I'll show you first using a big knife. So you make small cuts close together along the onion with the tip of the knife. And then you, using tip of the knife on the chopping board, using the heel of the knife and your fingers underneath, you chop your onion. So you should have nice, even pieces of onion. Okay, and you want to chop it all through, every last bit, because we don't like to waste anything, any bits that you've missed, and you've got evenly chopped onion. The other way to do it is using a smaller knife, doing exactly the same thing. And then you can either use the small knife carefully to chop like this, or you may decide to use a small knife for the first part and a large knife for the second part. Okay. And chop any bits that you've maybe missed. There we go. Now with an onion, it's quite a watery vegetable, so the best thing to do is to sweat your onion to soften it first, and then if you want colour on your onion, you fry it afterwards once you've softened your onion. So if we just put this onto a low heat and put our onion in here. Cover it in the oil. And then place the lid on top, and then that should start to slowly cook and soften the onions. So there's the lid. There we are. So whilst the onion's softening, we can prepare our garlic. So again, we're going to crush that in the same way as we've done previously. Squash it, then the skin comes off really easily. And then we can do one of two things with this. We can either grate it on the small side of the grater here, or we can crush it. So I'll show you how to crush it without using a garlic crusher. So you're going to again put lines across the garlic and chop it into small pieces, and then using the tip of your knife you can crush it, and then there's no need for a garlic press. So you can either do it that way, it's nicely crushed, or show you with another piece. On the small side of the grater. And then these bits you can put those in because you're going to soften those down as well, but you get a nice bit of grated garlic. There. These can all go in with your onions, which are starting to sizzle slowly here and soften. Making my eyes water. So the idea is just cooking them slowly and not getting any colour, so that they're soft but not coloured. Now you may have, I have ginger in my kitchen, so I'm going to add some ginger. So again, I'm going to cut a small piece off, peel it, and I'm also going to grate that. By grating the things, you reduce the amount of cooking time they need. There we go. It's all nicely grated. And that can go in with the garlic and the onion whilst it softens. Turn that down a little bit because that's beginning to go a little bit on the faster side. So I've grated some carrots to go in later when we add the beans. Grating them reduces the cooking time. So if I was to chop them, I'd maybe have to cook this for a good 30 minutes, whereas we're only going to cook it for 10-15 minutes. So that helps reduce the cooking time. I'm going to serve this with some broccoli, but we like to eat these nice bits of the broccoli, and quite often people waste or forget about the stems. So the stems are actually really good, they're very nutritious, and you've paid for them, so why throw them away? So if you look here, you can see this bit is edible and this bit you need to peel away. The peelings can be used in stock. Now this part of the broccoli does take longer to cook, so it's perfect to put into something like this, where it will take 5 to 10 minutes to cook, rather than using the nice heads of the broccoli. And then you can cut it into strips. And cut that up. And then that can be added along with your grated carrot in a little bit. So for this dish, we're going to use beans as our protein. They're cannelli beans, chickpeas, these are black-eyed beans and butter beans. So any of these can be used in this recipe. I'm going to use the chickpeas because they're a little bit more crunchy and give a bit of bite, and some of the cannelli beans. But you can play around with this and add whatever you like. I'm going to add some chopped tomatoes and some sweet corn. So in the beans, there's 2 portions per can. A can of beans costs about 55p, and there's all the protein, healthy protein that you need, and 1 portion, so half of this can is one of your 5 a day. And then you've got your tomatoes, they're about 35p a can, and obviously in here you've got 2 of your 5 a day in the can, so if you're doing this for 2 people, there would be 1 of your 5 a day. So there's 2 of your 5 a day just in the tomatoes and the beans, and then if you add a tin of sweet corn, another 1 of your 5 a day, and then your carrots 5 a day, and then there's a little bit of your broccoli. So all in all, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of your 5 a day without even adding serving a vegetable to accompany it. So the onions are now soft in here. You can see and feel that they're now will give under my fingers, and they haven't taken on any colour. So we're going to add spices that we're going to use. I'm going to add a tablespoon of turmeric, remembering I'm doing this for 4 people, and half a tablespoon of paprika. I'm using paprika because it gives a nice depth of flavour, but it doesn't make it hot and spicy, because my family don't like hot and spicy. You could use chili powder if you like it hot and spicy, or play around with this and use any spices that you particularly like. So it's very important to cook the spices off. If you were just to add your tomatoes and your beans and things straight in, you would have a harshness to the spices, and their full flavour wouldn't come out in your sauces. So you need to just let them cook off for a couple of minutes on a low heat with the softened onions. I'm cooked for 2 or 3 minutes with the spices, and I'm going to add the carrots and the little bit of broccoli stem that I had, and just mix those in and give those a few moments to take on the flavours and cook a little bit. And then I'm going to add my beans. So here I've got the chickpeas, and those are the cannelli beans. As you can see, they're slightly different. Those are quite firm, whereas these are soft. If you buy them in can form, they're already pre-cooked. So all you've got to do is heat them through. So I'm going to add those in, and then my drained sweet corn. Give that a little mix. And then my 2 tins of tomatoes. Obviously it would be 1 tin if you're doing this just for yourself. So I'm going to give that a bit of a mix through. Nice, and just whilst that's warming through. Now you don't want to waste any of this tomato that's in your cans, so I'm just going to rinse those out. So by rinsing those out, I'm going to be adding about another half a tin's worth of liquid in there. So now it's looking a bit more liquidy. So I'm going to turn the heat up to bring that up to the boil. And I'm going to add my couscous. So 35 grams of couscous is a portion. I have 120 grams in here because I'm going to cooking for 4 people. So that's going to go in to add some starch. It doesn't have to be couscous. You can use small pasta, which you could put in here, or you could cook rice separately, whatever starch that you like. What I'd like you to take on board from these videos is really a lot of these recipes are base recipes, and you can adapt them to whatever you have, whatever ingredients you have, and they're just a good base cooking skills to help you develop your own style of cooking whilst you're at university. So we need to add a little bit of sugar and salt, because tomatoes are very acidic, so the sugar will help cut through the acidness, and I just find you just need to add a little bit of salt. I'm not very keen on adding salt because obviously salt isn't particularly good for you, but I do find that tomato-based recipes do need a little bit of salt in them. So we're going to be very sparing with the salt. So I'll probably add about 2 generous pinches. I'm going to be a little bit more liberal with the sugar. So I'm going to add probably about 2 tablespoons of sugar in there. You can hear that just coming up to the simmering point. So I'm going to bring that up to simmer, and then I'm going to simmer it for 20 minutes, and then at that point your couscous and everything should be all nicely heated through. If you have any leftover If you're, well, of course, if you're not vegetarian and you have any leftover cooked chicken, you could add that. Really, you can do what you would like with this. This is actually a vegan dish, so you could add some cheese, and then it would be vegetarian, and really use this as the base for any leftovers you might have. You want to make the section in the supermarket that has reduced to clear will become your friend when you're at university. So you want to be able to go to the produce department and have a look and think, there's a parsnip there, carrots, maybe a bit of meat, and what you can make from basic store ingredients that you have at university into a nutritious, healthy meal. Also, you may find that if you're in a flat with 4 of you, 2 of your flatmates might be vegetarian and you may be a meat eater. So it's very handy to be able to put together a dish that is vegetarian, but you could add some meat to it. And then you can all eat together, and if you're cooking together, it is far more economical cooking for 4 people than it is for 1 person. So this has now come up to the simmering point, so I'm going to turn it down a fraction and then put the lid on and let it cook away for 20 minutes. Now ready to serve. A nice healthy portion to fill you up and full of nutritious vegetables and healthy low-fat protein. So we've got the broccoli to give us a nice bit of colour. Then if you had any fresh herbs, I think you could sprinkle those on top. I have some pea shoots that I've been growing, so I'm just going to put those on top, and there's your